Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So I found this story interesting. Let me make sure I'm seeing myself moving and shaking, so I'm going to take it that I am up. Thank everyone who stayed or who's coming back. Hopefully everyone has had a decent day. We're going into the night. I don't usually do nighttime shows, but I gotta be honest, I tend to do shows whenever it strikes my fancy. So, I found this one interesting. I found this story interesting. My sound looked like it's okay. I'm assuming that it's doing good. Edward Snowden was asked a question on this idea of the deep state. Now, this term gets pushed around a lot, and sometimes it comes across as if it's this kind of esoteric thing. Like it doesn't necessarily have a real world thing to it. And that's why I hate the term. I hate the usage of the term because I have no idea if they mean what I mean when I say that term. And in many respects, it comes across, like I said, like it's this kind of esoteric thing. Like it's not people and real world phenomena, that it's something else, something mysterious and nefarious that's working in the back end and everything else. I don't look at this stuff in that way. I look at this stuff in somewhat real world terms of human beings functioning in a particular system with certain incentives that push those human beings to behave a particular way. Let's answer. I'm going to read her question and I'm going to read his answer, because I think it's an awesome case. You're a new president. You come into office. What do you know of military policy? Think about what I'm saying. You're a brand new president. Say you're an anti-war president. And as an anti-war president, a general with a bunch of banners comes on into your office. And he says, we need to do an airstrike on this particular base. This is going to keep America safe. Now, you have no experience in this. In your civilian life, as just a regular person who decided to run for office, you don't make decisions like this where people are getting murdered or people are getting killed. This is not your cup of tea. Now, yes, you give civilian control of the military, but the military people are talking to the president, talking to whoever is in charge of that particular state, and they're pushing for a particular opinion, disposition. Is the president strong enough to stand up to the military brass? John F. Kennedy was. Most presidents, not so much. You can understand right off the bat there's somewhat of a disjoining of power in this. Yes, the president of the United States has the say, or has the say, but ultimately the influence that people are able to put on the president of the United States leads to a certain disposition. Let's let him explain this. I guess my point is I can understand the position that a person is in when they're going into the White House, and all of this is brand spanking new. And you have people who are telling you, you need to do these things, you need to maintain these things, you need to go into this place, you need to go into that place. It keeps us safe. Let's take a look at Snowden. Snowden explains deep state influence on President Obama and Trump. Stephanie, Missouri. We saw that President Obama, who was an outsider of the United States military intelligence complex, initially wanted to rein in the abuses of agencies like the CIA and NSA. But in the end, he did very little. Now we see a confrontation between President Donald Trump and the so-called deep state, which includes the CIA and the NSA. Can a United States president govern in opposition to such powerful entities? Edward Snowden. Obama is certainly an instructive case. This is a president who campaigned on the platform of ending warrantless wiretapping in the United States. He said, that's not who we are, that's not what we do. And once he became president, he expanded the program. It's like, that is exactly what we are, and that is exactly what we do. He said he was going to close Guantanamo Bay, but he kept it open. He said he was going to limit extrajudicial killings and drone strikes, and that has become so routine in the Bush years. It's become so routine in the Bush years. They had become so routine in the Bush years, I'm sorry. But Obama went on to authorize vastly more drone strikes than Bush. It became an industry. As for this idea that there's a deep state, now the deep state is not just the intelligence agencies. It's really a way of referring to the career bureaucracy of government. These are officials who sit in powerful positions, who don't leave when presidents do, who watch presidents come and go. They influence policy, they influence presidents and say, this is what we've always done. This is what we must do. And if you don't do this, people will die. That's exactly my point. That's precisely my point. It is an immense amount of force applied to a person who's coming in and has no experience whatsoever. When I got my first job in software, this is a short aside, but I kind of want to make the point. When I got my first job in software, I had only had experience in school. They sit me in front of a computer and they say, all right, we need you to go into the system and do this task. And I'm sitting there like, holy shit, you want me to touch the controls? I've only done this in school. I mean, people should be trusting me on anything. Like, you're new to the experience. That's just touching somebody's computer from the standpoint of software. What is it like to have somebody come into your office and tell you, we need you to do this strike. We need to strike this building. Yes, there will be civilian casualties, but we'll get the person that we need because it's going to save lives. Because if we don't do this now, that person is going to come back and hit America later. What do you say? What do you say? Let's keep going. It's very easy to persuade a new president who comes in, who has never done these powers, who has never had these powers, but has always wanted this job and wants very, very badly to do the job well. A bureaucrat sitting there for the last 20 years says, I understand what you say. I respect your principles. But if you do what you promise, people will die. It is very easy for a president to go, well, for now, I'm going to see this controversy to the side. I'm going to take your advice, let you guys decide how these things should be, and then I will revisit it when I have a little more experience, maybe in a few months, maybe in a few years, but they never do. This is what we saw quite clearly happen in the case of Barack Obama when the story of Snowden exposing the NSA mass surveillance came forward in 2013 when Obama had been president for 5 years. One of the defenses for this from his aides and political allies was, oh, Obama was just about to fix this problem. And sure enough, he eventually was forced from the wave of criticism to make some limited reforms, but he did not go far enough to end all of the programs that were in violation of the law or Constitution of the United States. That was an intentional choice. He could have certainly used the scandal to advocate for more changes that he had campaigned on to deliver all of the promises. But in those 5 years, he had become president. He discovered something else, which is that there are benefits from having very powerful intelligence agencies. There are benefits from having these career bureaucrats on your side using the spider web over the government for your benefit. Imagine you're Barack Obama and you realize, yes, you're campaigning, you are saying spying on people without a warrant is a problem, but you realize you can read Angela Merkel's text messages. Why bother calling her and asking her opinion when you can just read her mind by breaking the law? It sounds like a joke, but it is a very seductive thing. Secrecy is perhaps the most corrupting of all government powers because it takes public officials and divorces them from the accountability of the public. Now, he's saying something that's mind-blowing here, but people give it a pass and they just kind of assume, well, government is going to have its secrets. You are responsible for your government. You understand that, right? Like, for all intents and purposes, this government is supposed to be for and by the people, meaning the powers invested in the government is supposed to come from this idea of consent of the governed. There are 300 million people. The 300 million people give its consent, giving up certain freedoms or certain liberties to live within a societal fabric. That to some degree requires that you know what your government is doing, however. And if the government, when it fucks up, screws up, or is just embarrassed, and it puts it as a state secret because it wants to hide those things, well, you can understand the problem. There's an incentive for the government to put fuck-ups, foibles, and failures as state secrets. They don't want the public to know about those things, and those things would adversely affect, A, their ability to stay in office, and B, it may actually create somewhat of a foment, some movement on a particular issue that they don't want issue dealt with, like FISA warrants. Let's keep going. I like this. I like this point of view. When we take a look at the case of Trump, who is perhaps the worst of the politicians, we see the same dynamic occurring. This is a president who said the CIA is the enemy. It's like a Nazi Germany. We're listening to his phone calls and all of these other things, some claims which were true, some claims which were absolutely not. A few months later, he's authorizing major powers for the same agencies that he had called his enemies. And this gets to the central crux of your question, which is, Can any president oppose this? The answer is certainly. The president has to have some familiarity going in with the fact that this pitch is going to be made and that they're going to try to scare him or her into compliance. The president has to be willing to stand strongly on the line and say, I was elected to represent the interests of the American people, and if you were willing to respect the Constitution and our rights, I will disband your agency and create a new one. I think they can definitely be forced into compliance because the officials fear prison, just like every one of us. Essentially, if the president wanted to do so, the president could do so. Like, it's an extraordinarily powerful position. I understand people think that these intelligence agencies are powerful and everything else. Yes, but it's the president of the fucking United States. If he wanted to break some eggs, he could break some eggs. And if he wanted to disband those agencies, he could disband those agencies. When John F. Kennedy said he was going to break the CIA into 1,000 pieces, the president has the power to do so. Now, the question is always, what are the influence and what are the incentives built into the system itself? And is the president willing to go against those incentives in order to say this agency or the way this agency is behaving is beyond the pale? It's a good question. Very good question. Yeah, I love his answer to this, man. Because Snowden has a damn good point. It's like these guys are newbies. They're coming into office and you have old guards who've been there for God knows how long. These bureaucrats who are experienced and who are recognized as being experienced because they've been there for so long. And they say, this is the way that we do things. Now, this president don't want to rock the boat too much because the president don't want anything to happen on his watch that's too dramatic or too damning. So he says, fine. There are going to be some things that I'll rock the boat on. There are going to be some things that I don't. Fact is, I'm stuck with whatever I do, so I want to make minor changes. I don't want to have to deal with any drastic shifts. The bureaucrat says, good. Then we've always done things this way, and you should continue to do things this way. The president who's, you know, maybe he was a state politician, maybe he was a senator, maybe he was a House member, whatever. He was not the president. Nobody is full well responsible or full well ready for that particular position. And, you know, especially somebody who's coming into a position that had no powers like this prior, was not even close to the office prior. Fact is, those people are more susceptible to that particular message. And you can understand why. Hey, either you do this drone strike or people are going to die. Hey, either you strike this military base or a lot of these people are going to die. Hey, either you sign this particular thing showing that you're going to drone strike this particular person who's an American citizen or other people are going to die. You can kind of see the mantra for this. Everything is going to be ended up with, or these people are going to die. And the first thing he's thinking, well, I don't want people to die, and I don't want them to die on my watch, and I don't want to do something and then America gets hits later. You know, that's the other standpoint to this. Weakness. If the president of the United States doesn't do something, meaning the president says no, he refuses to do something, and something happens, either a terrorist strike, a bombing, or something else, whether or not that bombing had anything to do with the president of the United States turning down that military official, it will all be construed as having something to do with the thing that the president refused to do. So if the president says, no, I'm not going to bomb that place is a hospital, and I'm not going to bomb all those people in order to get that one person, something happens 3 months later, the opposition says, see what the president didn't do. The president had the opportunity to make that bomb strike and the president didn't do it. Now, the president protested and saying, this had nothing to do with anything. That bomb strike was going to hit a hospital and it wasn't a terrorist organization and they were cherry picking that information. It's not going to matter. The incentive in this process is to look strong. The incentive is to be strong. The incentive is to be able to go out and say, I am kicking ass on behalf of you and I'm keeping you safe. That means killing people. That means killing people. Balthazar, remember when Obama pardoned Snowden at the behest of Hillary Rodham Clinton and welcomed him back to the hero he supported, whistleblower? Neither do I. Yeah, he never did that. Yeah, he never did that. He unfortunately never did that. Not so much. Not so much. Are we on John Bolton? Yeah, John Bolton's a fucking maniac. In fact, I would go so far as to say, anybody who's on this agenda, I agree with Caitlin Johnson on this. any Trump supporter that was on this agenda of Donald Trump is a safer bet because, you know, Hillary Clinton was going to start a war. John Bolton, look, man, people are policy. That man is a maniac. That man is a bloodthirsty maniac. If you're talking about somebody who wants to hit North Korea, a strike on North Korea would immediately entail a strike on Japan and South Korea, potentially even with nuclear weapons. Now, everybody and their mama knows this. Doesn't stop John Bolton from saying we should strike North Korea. John Bolton's a fucking maniac. He's a maniac. And honestly, that is a terrifying posting. That is a terrifying posting. And I have to be honest, that's a significant departure from anything that he was talking about prior, with this idea of being a peacenik with Russia or this kind of détente. I mean, this is a drastic departure. John Bolton is a fucking maniac. He's full on into this kind of Hillary Clinton regime changes business. So I understand people were voting for Trump, some Republicans were voting for Trump because they thought he's not going to invade Syria, he's not going to invade this country or that country. People of policy. You pick John Bolton. That should give you some idea or some indication on where Trump's head is. And it is not good. It is not good. That is a terrifying posting. I heard that posting and I was like, oh man, it shook me inside. Yeah. Lawrence, John Bauer, if you're to fund the CIA, then you have a bunch of disgruntled, unchained spooks milling around the world. Unchained spooks. It's something about the word spooks. I love that word. If you notice, I use the word spooks as opposed to the CIA shit. I love the word spooks. I think the word is fucking hilarious. John Bolton never made a single accurate prediction about the results of foreign policies. Not a single goddamn one. No, he didn't make a single one, but that's not John Bolton's point. John Bolton's point is the regime change. It's not about whether or not he's right about the predictions. They just need somebody who would get up there and give the prediction, if that makes sense. It's not so much that he's right or wrong. They just need somebody to get up there and say it. John Bolton is that guy. He's a fucking lunatic. He's an absolute lunatic. We would be much better off with Michael Bolton from Office Space. That's funny. Basil Peterson, I feel like I'm on a train going somewhere I don't want to go. Yeah, it's almost like you're completely disjointed from the political process itself. Like, these guys are putting in maniacs. None of these people are representative of the government itself, meaning the American public are not putting these people in office. John Bolton is a fucking maniac. Like, we really need a revamping of our political system. Like, because as is, it doesn't represent us. Like, you can't necessarily have an honest conversation and come away with the conclusion that this particular government represents the American public. It does not. They represent their donors, represent themselves. John Bolton is a fucking lunatic, and nobody in their right mind would put John Bolton anywhere near the government. They wouldn't put John Bolton with a TV screen watching the government on C-SPAN. Like, the man should be nowhere near the political process at all. No, he should not be near the process. Half of the Republicans hate Bolton also. Reminds me of George W. Chris Kroll. John Bolton is about getting us into trouble, not out of trouble. Crows at owls. Yeah, he is. He is. Good King Winslow. So Trump was just bullshitting about military budget the other day. Hey, yeah, probably. Didn't buy a ticket, but was born into this. Basil Peterson. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Yeah, any idea of Trump not being this kind of militaristic neocon is out the window. It is out the window. Like, no Trump supporter can make this argument that their guy is somehow better on foreign policy than Hillary Clinton on this front. Like, it's one thing, don't get me wrong. I think if it's one thing if Donald Trump pulled us out of Syria and backed away. And to be honest, the pressure and political pressure that Democrats were putting on him was putting on him from the standpoint of getting him more hawkish, more invested. Imagine what would have taken place if Donald Trump just said, look, we're getting out of Syria. We shouldn't have any say-so in that domain. That's not us. That's not our territory. That's Russia's. It's theirs. First thing Democrats would say is, see, he's getting us out of Syria. We knew he was a Putin puppet. He's purely working for Russia. We're going to impeach him because he's colluding with Russia and he's undermining our democracy. Their push would be literally in the opposite direction than what a lefty would typically push. Bolton is terrifying. Bolton is terrifying. Whatever, any Trump supporter who was on this bandwagon that Donald Trump was somehow a safer bet. People of policy. John Bolton is not indicative of a good policy that's going to come out of this. Be afraid. Be very, very afraid. Brom, SL1. John Bolton would make a good janitor, let alone national security advisor. John Bolton wouldn't make a good janitor, let alone national security advisor. It's funny. The porn star mustache was the thing that Donald Trump didn't like about him. Like, he said Trump was almost like completely disavowed him. Like, took him off the list because of the mustache. I wish he would have taken him off the list because of the mustache. I don't care what reason he took him off the list. I just wish he would have taken him off the list. John Bolton is a terrifying change, man. That is a terrifying development. Alright, guys. I am going to end this. It's 21. I don't want to keep these too long. I was trying to get them. Yeah, I don't want to keep these too long. I'm coming up on 10,000 subscribers. I am not sure what I'm going to do for this. So what I really want to do is to have a live showing somewhere, but I got to be honest, I don't quite know how to set that up, and I don't think I'll be able to set it up in the time frame coming up to the 10,000. My wife, my loving wife, got me a shirt she got me a t-shirt with the Progressive Soapbox stuff on it, and got, I guess it's like a certificate with the 10,000 thing. So she's backing up her husband on this. I have to be honest, I'm shocked as shit. Yeah, I do a separate show for the 10,000 thing, but I do want to do like a live show for the 10,000. I just don't know how to pull it off. But nevertheless, that's coming up soon. Guys, I want to thank all of you. I mean, honestly, I know I say this a lot, and maybe I say this because I'm shocked as shit that anybody is actually sitting here listening to me, but I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Let's see. Bernard Foster. Should Snowden pick a politically advantageous time to re-enter the United States, like 2020 election, or just spend the rest of his life as a pawn for Russia? Oh man, if he comes back into the States, they're going to put him in prison. I mean, understand, he revealed this information on the Obama time. Essentially, the Obama administration was breaking the law in the way that it was interpreting the expanded wiretapping, essentially the mass surveillance. I don't know when he could come in. Any random Democrat would typically go after him. In an odd way, he's safer in Russia than he is in the United States. It's sad. I mean, he was a whistleblower. The information that he revealed literally was about the United States breaking the law. And yet and still, he still had to flee and ended up in Russia in order to avoid the fate that Bradley Manning took. Or that Chelsea Manning took. So, I feel you, man. I don't know what that time would be. Unless he had a president that invited him back and gave him a pardon or something to that effect. But otherwise, he's always susceptible to being picked up. Welcoming him back, yeah. Alright, guys. Thank you all for showing up. I don't know if I'm going to do another one tonight. Maybe, maybe not. I mean, it's already, yeah, maybe not. If I have another bout of insomnia, I may be back, but I will probably see you guys tomorrow. So, thank all of you. And if you enjoy the content, feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support the Patreon. Thanks, everyone.